Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second Breaking Barriers session from the PGMOL. We are so happy to see how many of you have decided to sign up to hear from the two incredible people that I'm about to introduce. The session is to hear the stories of a couple of incredibly impressive women who work in refereeing, and it's part of what the PGMOL is doing around equality, diversity, and inclusion. I'm your host, Kate Mason, and I'm so pleased to play a small part in this session. It's my belief that making everyone feel welcome and included in all areas of football is the most important job of the game today. And sessions like this are part of that process. We'll get to our star guests any minute, but first, an extremely important man at the heart of all of this work, down the line from Ibrox, in his broadcast studio, it's the PGMOL's MD, Mike Riley. Mike, what a charming space you seem to have found yourself in. May I ask where you're delivering your address from?
I'm incredibly impressed, Kate, that you refuse to just divulge the fact I'm sat in the toilet. I've got some peace and quiet. It's really exciting here at Ibrox. We're ahead of the Europa League game this evening. And as you can imagine, outside you've got players from both teams all getting ready, lots of noise. So I've had to find a little cubby hole just to be able to talk to you all tonight.
That's lovely to see what you've dreamed up. And as we say, referees are very adaptable. So that makes perfect sense.
And actually, that's the theme of this evening. So first, I'd like to thank Sian and JJ for giving up the time tonight to talk to all of us. Breaking Barriers is all about listening to people involved in refereeing and understanding their journeys that make them really enjoy the role of refereeing. And hopefully what we take out of it is the realisation that refereeing is for everybody. It's for all of us who want to be involved in the great game that we love. I can understand why, if you look at PGMOL as an organisation at the moment, you might not be able to see that pathway to the very top. Because clearly, at the top of the game, we are not representative of all the communities that we serve. And we want to be. We want that to change. And part of Breaking Barriers is to encourage people to participate, to help people realise that the support is there, the opportunity is there, and over time, we will make our lists of match officials representative of all the communities that we work with. I'm really fortunate over the last 3 years to work with a group of really talented and passionate people who form our Inclusiveness Advisory Group. They've generated some wonderful ideas, have done some great work, and actually the result of their hard work is Breaking Barriers this evening. It's one of the key things that they've been working on. So what I hope we can all take away, having listened to Sian and to JJ and their amazing experiences in football, is that understanding that for all of us, if our passion is refereeing, then we as PGMOL, the FA themselves, want you to be involved in refereeing, and the support networks are there to enable you to do that. So enough of me from my toilet. It's back to Kate, to the main event, and I'm really looking forward to listening to Sian and to JJ.
Brilliant stuff, Mike. So nice to hear from you about these ambitions from the PGMOL. All right, let's get to our special guests then. First, she is synonymous with high quality refereeing decisions and a laser focus on the task in hand. Sian Massey-Ellis, a top level match official who's been working in the Premier League for over a decade now. Unbelievably. She's also officiated at the Women's World Cup and in the Men's Europa League, and she has an MBE for services to the game. Sian, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your stories of life in the game. Our second special guest is Jawahir Roble, who's known as JJ. If Sian, I guess, is at the pinnacle of her profession, JJ is coming up through the ranks in her diligent way. She's the UK's first hijab-wearing referee. She starred in the launch campaign for the Nike-designed kit for the England women's football team, which was awesome. I'm sure you guys all remember. And her ambition is to referee at the World Cup. Or in fact, JJ, probably fairer to say World Cups, right? Because I feel as though you're targeting not just one.
No, we're targeting as many as we can.
Amazing stuff. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have so much we want to talk about. Oh, to mention myself, I'm a presenter at Sky Sports. I'm one of the anchors of Sky Sports News. I'm actually on the early session tomorrow. So if you want to get up at 7 and join me, please do. And with a few mates, I also host the Football Ramble, which is the biggest indie football podcast in the world. which this morning actually we had a bit of a rant about in support of referees. So you guys might find something to interest you then there. So much to talk about. Let's get on, shall we? Sian, if I start with you, it's the obvious one, but how did you decide that this was the profession for you?
To be honest, it was a bit of an accident, if I want to be honest. It's I kind of just gradually fell in love with it. It wasn't at the aim to be a Premier League assistant referee, you know, when I was 13 starting out as a referee. It was never the big aim. I just fell in love with the game that I already loved. My dad was a football referee, but he was heavily involved in Coventry Minor League and Coventry Alliance. He ran a football team himself on a Sunday. So I was always like going to football to watch the game. And then it turned into the fact that I started refereeing, took the course at 13, then 14. So I started youth football and just progressed through there. And I just was addicted to it. I love the kind of the buzz that you get off enjoying a game of football, going out there and feeling like, especially in youth football when you first start out, you feel like you've really had an impact in terms of, you know, I used to go out with the under 12s and, you know, if somebody had taken a foul throw, you'd go over and kind of explain the laws of the game to them. So it kind of wasn't just, I wasn't a referee there to say, you've done that wrong. I was there to coach them as well in the laws of the game. And I think we all grew then. I grew through football and just loved being involved from minute one, you know, turning up, having a chat with the lads and, you know, and then what turned into the girls as well, because I was refereeing men's and women's football or boys and girls football at the time, and just grew up through that and I just loved it. And then I was kind of addicted to the high of doing well as well. So then as I got promoted, it's like that, oh, I want to get to the next level. So that's kind of my journey really. It just kind of fell into me rather than the other way around really.
So it sounds as though there is a competitive element to getting to where you have managed to get to at this point. Sian, we'll come back to that certainly, but JJ, could I ask you the same question? What have your steps been so far?
So I've been playing football since the age of 5, and like people when they ask me and I say, of everything you can pick in football, you chose to be a referee. Like how? Why did you do that? What? Like, can you not do something else? Like it again, same as Sian. I fell into it by accident, and now I'm just working through the ranks myself.
What do you tell them, JJ, when they say, "Oh, of all the things in football, you want to be a referee"?
I'm like, you haven't tried refereeing. Honestly, it's one of the best thing I've done.
What do you like so much about it?
And the fact that, okay, if I was to choose playing or refereeing, I would have chosen playing any day. But like the fact that now refereeing kind of gives me the same kind of excitement, because like you're looking after like so many people. They're gonna have to come for an answer for you. The training, just like looking after everyone. I think refereeing is exciting.
That's such an interesting way of looking at it. Sian, is that how you feel? It sounds like that is how you feel as well, talking about helping and coaching in the laws of the game. I mean, it's you really that holds the whole thing together, right?
Yeah, it's the best seat in the house, I think, the front seat. The best game in the world. I think it's the excitement of being involved in the game and helping coach. And it's that team that you get as well. You know, a grassroots football, okay, you referee on your own, but once you go through, you end up in a team. So it's a team on the day. So you're 3 or 4 officials on the day, you know, and you are another football team really. And then when you get to the kind of higher echelons and you're working with the same referees week in, week out, they're like your little football family. So, you know, some of my best friends are my referee friends. So, you know, I'd say we're more than just colleagues as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's something that probably both of you get asked about as well, is clearly there's so much scrutiny on particularly the level that Sian is dealing with. There's so much scrutiny on every decision. People wonder, is it lonely when you're having to be so focused on making those calls? And then potentially, like all humans, making mistakes. Mm-hmm. And it sounds to me as though the community that both of you have found through refereeing is one of the really great elements about it. You're nodding, JJ.
I agree. With refereeing, it depends how you look at it. You can feel lonely when you look at it from the outside looking in. It does look lonely, but as an individual, you can make the choice to make you feel like, you know, you are part of a family. So getting the captains on your side, getting the players, like it depends where you are on the pitch. Like if you're near the goal area, you can speak to the goalkeeper. I think it's just getting yourself familiarized with who you're dealing with. But in terms of like going up the ranks and just like going, you know, through promotion and stuff, it is lonely because you're on your own and you have yourself to motivate. But when I'm on the pitch, I don't feel that lonely.
So that would be really interesting to hear about, actually, for lots of the people listening, hopefully today, are people who might be considering this or might not have considered this as a career, but might be thinking about it, hearing from such great advocates as the two of you. What is the process? I mean, I know you're incredibly well qualified, JJ. How has that process gone for you in terms of education and taking steps? Can you talk us through it?
The process, I would say, at the beginning, because I was trying out refereeing and I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with refereeing, it was less stress because like it was I had control over it. So it was like, I'm doing the youth now. And at first it was like really young girls, like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds that I was refereeing voluntarily. And then after I was like, I kind of like it. Let me see if I can challenge myself to, you know, maybe try out under 14s, under 15s. It was so nice. But now it's like, it's so hard because there's laws of the game you have to get through to. You have to, you know, impress observers. You have to, you know, get good marks during that year of promotion. So like now it's out of my control and I have to kind of, you know, impress the people above to, you know, get the marks that I want to move up.
Constant testing. Something that always interests people, are always fascinated about as well, Sian, is the fitness. I mean, you guys have to do some pretty serious fitness skills and qualifications in order to be allowed to referee at the highest level. Can you talk us through those and how do you build up to that stuff? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I do really love it, actually. I know that's contradicting myself because I hate the fact that I really have to be at my top level, 100% training. But at the same time, it's competing against myself. You know, can I hit that top speed? We're tested so much. And in terms of at the moment, it's really difficult because we're training on our own. But normally when we're training in our groups, it's really like fun because you've got somebody to train with you, training as part of that team. Fitness is a big part for us. You know, we have to work hard at it. All of the referees on the Premier League and assistant referees, we really work hard. We're always kind of monitored. So we're monitored with polar watches and with our GPS trackers. So, you know, we're sent training plans out, follow the training plans that they send us, and then they're kind of messaging us saying, oh, you didn't hit your top speed in this session, or, you know, you only did this many accelerations. So it's really kind of heavily monitored, or you only did this many minutes in your top zone, try and get for this zone next time, that kind of thing. So it's kind of like you're competing with yourself in that term of always trying to hit them targets. But when we train as a group, again, it's that family that you get, you know, you kind of like, oh, 3, 2, 1, go, and then who can get to the cone first, and, you know, or relay races, and, you know, you can make it fun. Fitness can be fun still, and I think that's a big part of what we do as well. In that teamwork, the fitness comes with it as well.
So is the bleep test a big involved part of it?
Yeah, well, it's very similar to the bleep test, but it's kind of 3 tests in one. So we have a sprint test, which is through speed gates, and then we do the assistant referees do a slightly different one as our second test, which is like a forward run, a sideways, and then sprint backwards again. So it's, again, through speed gates. So that's all timed, and you have to hit certain levels depending on the level of refereeing that you're at. And then we do the third kind of test is 10 laps of the track, which is split up into like a run and a walk. So it's 40 runs and 40 walks. And you have to be in by the beat. So 75-meter run, 50-meter walk in certain times. So yeah, it's hard, but it's achievable.
Of course it is, guys. That's what we know. So JJ, was that ever something that you said you loved playing football, and that was something that drew you in the first instance? Was that ever something you were concerned about? Because obviously you've got to hit these levels of fitness in order to progress in the job.
at the beginning, I didn't know that, there was fitness tests and stuff. But after, because now I want to take refereeing serious, like I changed my diet. I'm eating so much better now, like no more chicken and chips, like the one odd ones. Yeah, I'll treat myself. But like now is like 6 days training, go for a run every morning, like now we're all at home. I'm working out, the YouTube sessions and stuff. And then when it gets to like fitness days, honestly, referees work so hard. Like players undermine referees. It's the same process pretty much, because you have to look at your diet, you have to look after, what you're like, you have to sleep properly, good hours, you have to put in a lot of reading, a lot of fitness. It's really good.
It's impressive stuff. It's cool to hear, especially at the moment when so many people are apparently so much more sedentary than they normally are.
Yeah.
So Sian, was that anything, because obviously you've got to do it just at the same level as the guys, was that ever a worry to you?
I mean, I have to work really hard to pass the same test that the lads test. I'm not going to lie out there and say, oh yeah, it's easy. I have to work really hard. So I'm really always trying to push myself and challenge myself to make sure that, I am as fit as the lads. I have to keep up with them players on the pitch. So, we're always doing lots of, trialing new things, new games, and try and improve our sprint technique. We do a lot of strength and conditioning work as well that kind of has that background to improve our fitness. So it's been really hard, but it's something that I've really worked on. Actually, then you get the kind of like that happy feeling out of that sense of achievement as such when you do achieve it.
Yeah, to go with the endorphins, which is all the really, really good stuff. Can we talk, Sian, a little bit about being the first female official to feature in a Premier League match as an assistant? It was Sunderland's game against Blackpool. It's 2010. Set the scene. How are you feeling?
Incredibly nervous. I remember going up the night before and staying in a hotel. I don't think I've ever been so nervous in my whole life. Just because I think the nerves were all on me. They were all on myself. But in terms of, I just wanted to do well. I wanted to show that girls could achieve being on the Premier League. And I wanted to do well for myself. I felt like I'd worked really hard and to get that opportunity. I'd been through the ranks, I'd been top of the merit table, I'd been, and I'd been selected on ability, and I didn't want to let the people down that gave me that opportunity either. So I think that all that pressure comes from myself, really. But it's just that, I was so nervous, I remember the night before. And one of my friends said to me, who's also a Premier League assistant, he said, you won't remember a lot about the game. He said, but you'll just take that second when you walk out onto that pitch and you hear the music playing, so the Premier League music, and you're walking out and you stand under that Premier League banner. He said, and the key kind of teams are lined up. He said, just take that second, because that is the second that you'll get to remember that moment. And now I can remember it. I've got goosebumps on my arms. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. If you asked me the score, I couldn't tell you, and who played, but I remember that moment specifically. And I think I always got nervous with big games anyway. When you kind of take that next step, I was always nervous about, this is a new challenge. I was definitely more nervous than just a normal game, but I think I always say that once you've given your first decision, your nerves settle. And I think I really, really just had to remember that. So as soon as I gave the first decision, whether it be a throw-in or corner, that was it. My kind of nerves settled. And then I just kind of enjoyed it. And I especially enjoyed it once it had gone well.
The goose pimples that you're talking about, I could feel them as well hearing you describe that. So that's such brilliant advice that you can keep that in your head forever. I mean, you say, of course, that it was you putting the pressure on, and I can tell from both of you that you're people who want to achieve and want to do the best that you can in this profession. But Sian, I mean, being honest, it's not just you, is it? It's you know that you've got a ponytail. That makes it obvious that you're not looking the same as the other people that are going to be on the sidelines that day, or indeed many of the people in the stadium. I understand that you're saying you had to decide it doesn't affect you, but did you have any sense of how big it would be, you doing that job?
I don't think, not probably until afterwards. I was so focused on getting my decisions right that it kind of was like afterwards I thought, you know, if I actually had a bad game, which does happen, and I got a few decisions wrong, would people just think that was because I was a girl? And I kind of don't like to dwell on that too much. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I think it's pride about taking my own decisions and being good enough for myself. And I think that's always the way I've looked at it, that as long as I do well for myself and I'm proud of what I achieve, then actually none of the rest of it really matters.
That's exactly the way you have to look at it. And I think when I've talked to, you know, Jackie Oatley, first female commentator on Match of the Day, you know, she says much of the same sort of stuff, doesn't she? She's got to just do the best that she can, as we all do, and hope that people, or forget about the other people, forget about them. JJ, of course, you have, I guess, the added thing of wearing a hijab when you referee. Have you had people talking to you about that?
Luckily, I haven't had like a direct face-to-face where someone says, "Oh, why you're on our pitch? You're Muslim. You're wearing that." Like, I haven't had any of that, thankfully. But like, sometimes I do get the looks, and I'm just always telling them, like, guys, I'm not here to, you know, just to play around. I want to here to referee you guys. I am here because I chose to be here, and I want to enjoy the game you're going to put on. You know, impress me. See, do what you can. Literally.
Nice, impress me. I like that as an attitude from a referee. I like that a lot. And you came here from Somalia when you were quite young.
Yeah.
Was football a part of you feeling like you found your place in this new country?
Always, honestly, like, coming to a country where football is literally the main sport was amazing, because, you know, coming from a country where, you know, civil war has broken out and we just played football, and then being told, you know, we're going to move out, guys, and we're going to go and move to England. Seriously, like, we haven't traveled ever. So coming to England was just the best. Good choice, mom and dad.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. And what was it like? I mean, obviously 10 years old, it's hard to have really amazing memories of that time, but can you cast your mind back to that, how it felt to try and settle in?
Trying to settle in, I remember forever like struggling with the language, like it was so hard. But in terms of making friends, it was easy because I played football. I was like really fit kid, and all I needed was to ask my mom and dad to buy me a football, so that, you know, I can get the kids to come to me and, you know, tell them, you know, if you have a football in primary school, you are literally like one of the main people. So I was like, I figured that out quite early. So I got a ball, I come to the playground, I'm like, yes, I'm going to decide who plays where. So I was like literally little bossy. And yeah, football made it so much easier because the kids were like just so nice.
So you're running the game there, JJ, it sounds like. It now all starts to fit into place. Okay, and then in terms of your hijab, right, is that a fairly new thing? I seem to remember Nike kind of releasing a whole load of branded. Yeah, I like it. What was the story with that? That must have been pretty exciting.
Yes, honestly, no, first of all, hearing that, like, one of the main reasons why I didn't become a footballer is because my parents always said, look, JJ, FIFA have banned females from playing football, like FIFA have banned girls from playing with accessories like hijab. So I can't even tell you what to do. The law already says don't play football. And then I was like, okay, but I can always find a way if you guys give me the permission. So hearing that the ban got lifted and just hearing more support towards women, you know, all this encouragement does help. But like now it's like, wear whatever you want, as you can play football.
That's so cool to hear. What do they make of what you're doing now, your parents?
Ooh, they love it, honestly. Like at the end of the day, like, I'm never gonna be like, oh, guys, you made me miss out. I forgive them for making me miss out on playing, but like now I'm glad that we're all on the same page, because I'm not hiding from them anymore. Like, I'm not hiding my boots. I'm not rubbing my mud out like from my trousers before I come to the house. Now it's like, guys, I had a really, really long day. Players have been very rude today. I've given out this many. Like, they're so nice. They want to hear it. Before it was like, as soon as I come in, put the bag down, hide. And then I was like, JJ, how was your game today? So good.
So they're into it. Do they come to
Yeah.
any of your games that you?
No, they don't come. No. My siblings do. My parents are like, do what you have to do. Just as long as you're happy now, because we're all on the same page.
That's cool. Oh, it's such a nice story to hear. I think what this session is all about really is just talking to you about how you just felt like you fitted in this refereeing community. And that's what's so nice hearing your stories. Sian, did you talked a lot already about the community that you've felt and the friends you've made in refereeing. Was there any stage in the early days where you didn't feel so welcome?
Yeah, I think sometimes, not particular stage, maybe games in particular, sometimes where you've had maybe not necessarily a bad game yourself as a referee, but maybe sometimes the perception of the players and the managers or a certain team is that you haven't been good today, or things have gone against them. I think sometimes when you get a bit of grief at the end of a match, it can really make you kind of feel a little bit down. And I think that at them stages in refereeing, you've got to use your football family around you. I mean, my dad came to every game with me throughout my career, up until COVID. And, he's my biggest supporter and biggest critic, but it was having somebody there to talk through situations. Like JJ says, she comes in and she says to her mum and dad, oh, I had so many cautions today, or we did this today, or they were rude today. I've got that person to talk things through. And I think whether that be my dad sometimes, or it be my coaches, or it be my fellow football referee friends, sometimes you have a good whinge and you think, oh, they give me right grief for this. And, or I gave this penalty, it's a clear penalty and I still got, abuse for it. You kind of like thrash it out kind of thing. And then you feel a lot better afterwards. So I think having that community is really useful.
It must be pretty frustrating the way that people can just mouth off about any decision you make, and there's going to be hundreds of people just arguing against it because they're biased towards a football team, or and you're like, I've trained at this, I know the rules. What are you talking about? How do you deal with that?
I think I just take it with a pinch of salt, really, because I played a lot of sport when I was younger, and I was always the one like, oh, how did she not see that as as a referee, or oh, that definitely came off me, or when you're playing. And I think you kind of you are biased, and that's just a natural instinct, and the referee is kind of the one that gets it, really. In terms, I think that I think that's the passion involved in football, and that's why we love football. In terms of we love that passion that they're so supportive of their team that anything counts, but it can't be against their team. And I think that kind of adds to the passion and my love for football. Really, that's probably a bad thing, but
yeah, you can totally understand that people are just seeing it through this one-dimensional perspective because they love it so much. It's the most important of the unimportant things. Do you have mentors and people that I mean, of course you've mentioned your parents, but do you have people that you can talk through things that have gone well or not so well?
Yes, I have a mentor called Alan Hill. He has been this was the stage in my refereeing journey where I was clueless. I was like, how does this refereeing stuff work? Like, who do you go to? Who do you speak to? And then I spoke to one of my lecturers from university, Emily Hill, and I said to her, can you please put me in touch with someone who can actually help me out, because I have no idea where to go. And then she put me in touch with him, and he explained everything. And I remember calling him after my games, telling him today I got abused so much, and then some days I'm like, I had the best game ever. And he will say, what was good about the game, or why did you struggle with this? What you could have done this, you could have. It's so nice to speak to him after the game.
Yeah. Do you ever? I mean, presumably quite often when you get abuse, which is presumably quite often, it doesn't reflect. It's not at all related to
nothing personal.
How you've performed, first of all, and then it's not personal to you. So it's quite a strange. It's actually something I know a tiny bit about from broadcasting and people just laying into you for whatever they think you've done wrong. And I think the main thing is about knowing that you've done your best that day, and the people who are shouting don't really know what the best is.
Literally, they're very funny because okay, I get there's frustration, there's excitement, everyone's just like a bit, into the game. They give it to me like, ref, are you blind? What is wrong? All of that, I'm hearing it. And then at the end of the game, it's like, ref, I didn't mean everything I said. I take it back. I apologize. I'm like, why don't you have that same behavior? Like, why don't you play? You can't just say everything and then apologize. Like, come on, you need to think about what you're saying. And then most weekends, I see the same players. I'm like, hey, I'm watching you. I'm not accepting that apology if you carry on like that. And then like, it's just getting to know the players and like never taking anything into heart, because some people sometimes they don't mean what they say, but like if they do cross the line, I'm like you say things like, oh, you're a girl, like you shouldn't be in this game. I'm like, excuse me, you just missed your own penalty, you're a boy, you shouldn't be. Imagine, like I always try to educate them and like never feel okay, yeah, it does hurt sometimes, but I also let them know that what they said did hurt me, and I educate them by telling them, just because I made this one mistake, you're gonna generalize it for all the girls. Like you can't say girls can't referee because I'm having a bad game today. So like, just fix up.
That's such a good way of looking at it. There is a real concern, I feel, that referees can be dehumanized by the process of the game. So, people are so used to just venting on referees that they forget that you are just people who like football and want to be involved in the game. And I think hearing your stories is such an important part of just reminding people that, it does actually hurt. And I think that's such a mature way of dealing with it. JJ, have you ever said that to someone and they've just not reacted? Or have you tended to find that people kind of relate to you differently when you have those kind of conversations with them?
Honestly, always it's like, yes, I understand, ref. I understand where you're coming from. I apologize. Like, you have to explain it to them. Like, you can't let things like that slide. You just offended me, and you wanna. Honestly, there's yellow cards and there's red cards, but also, you have to pay for what you've done. Like, you said stuff, and then sometimes I have time, I have energy. I will explain it to them. Like, I'm here because I want to, I like the game and I want to referee. I go out of my bed, I'm traveling on the bus, like train and everything is just difficult sometimes. And I get to the game and then you make it difficult. Did you get out of your bed to give me a hard time, or did you come here to play your game? So like always telling them, like, you have to tell them that, always keep reminding them what they came here to do.
What would you say to someone who is trying to come up through refereeing, JJ, about how you've learned to deal with it and what they should expect?
I would say for every, like, okay, refereeing, sometimes people say, oh, refereeing is difficult, referees get a lot of abuse. I would say it's different for every person. And someone who's coming up the ranks, I would say start off with doing youth games and just working your way up. And whenever you feel like doing adult games, go for it. Go to a local area where you know the area well and you know the people, and just like never be too hard on yourself. Always like be ready to learn. You will have bad games, and you have to go home and be like, during that decision, like what was I thinking? What was my thinking process? I should have been on this position. I could have seen it clearer. Maybe the way you always have to like work in your head and find out what went wrong. And if there's something you can't change, it's always going to be a learning experience. You're not going to make that mistake again if you already, worked it out.
And Sian, of course, you've been working in the game much longer than JJ has. What have you built up over time in terms of that resilience?
I think you learn to deal with it. I think what JJ said about education, I think for us, it's about kind of drawing that line. There's a difference between, you're a woman, get back to the kitchen, you shouldn't be in this game. That for me is not okay. So I think for me, it's about drawing that line. It's about educating that actually that comment's not okay. A comment like, oh, you're so far out of position. Yeah, I can take that because, it's something that I can improve on. But it's not okay to be, personal. And I think if I look at it like that, I actually built quite a lot of confidence in myself and strength of character, really, to learn how to deal with that. When I was, coming through as a youth, I think I learned a way to deal with them comments. And I think actually it's been a good thing about me as a person. It helped me develop as a person. And I think that, you get abuse, but actually for the one bit of abuse in that game that you get, you've probably got 10 positive comments as well. So I think that sometimes it's about actually taking the positives out of a situation. And the way I look at it is that, you know, if that one person doesn't say any negative comments next week, then I've done something good.
That's an impressive way of looking at it. And you're right. But sometimes it's the horrible comment, you know, that outweighs all of the 10 nice comments, isn't it? Because we're only human, right? Do you think people, how do you think we could educate crowds better on this sort of thing? Do you think enough is being done, Sian, to protect women and
I think so many initiatives now coming through that, you know, at the grassroots game that we have the banners up and things like that. And I think it's knowing that we are people as well. I think people are, like you said earlier, people are so used to just giving out to referees that it's kind of okay. I think that once people realise that we're humans first, you know, that we have personalities and that things do, you know, can upset us and things like that. I think that it's the same with social media, how people could just post things and hide behind it. I think it's about encouraging people to, you know, feel like if somebody said that to you, how would you feel? And I think a lot of work is still to be done. And I think, you know, all the initiatives that we're coming up with and that we're trying to implement into the game is really important. I think that, you know, the security guards and people like that do really well in, you know, making sure that people who say things in stands and things are not, you know, they're removed. You know, people lose their season tickets and things like that, because it's not okay to just give out abuse in terms of things like that. And I think, so it's about the initiatives, it's about social media, it's about us being kind of out there, knowing that we're humans and how it affects us. You know, the initiatives where you can report things as well, I think they're really good initiatives. So I think it's lots of little things that can be done to really help.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I think that I've really hated to see as you've come up through the game, Sian, is the way that there's been stories from people, I won't go into the specifics, but from people saying things and then that being a very high profile story in the media. And I suppose the hope is that as more different people are involved in the game and there's more women, you'll be less of a story, if you know what I mean. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, and I think now, like you say, I've been on the Premier League for 10 years, and I think that people kind of know now that it's not, you know, it's not ticking the box that I'm there. It's because I've worked really hard to get there. And I think that it shows that it's achievable for anybody from race, religion, different cultures, backgrounds, that anybody can achieve to do anything that they dream of. And I think that now is becoming more of a reality. And I think, you know, hopefully the more of us there are in different cultures, the more it becomes the norm.
And this is what this is all about today, isn't it, Sian and JJ? So let's get back to the buzz of refereeing. We've talked about your first massive game, Sian, in the Premier League, and JJ, we talked about how much you enjoy working with the little kids. Have you got a sort of favourite memory, JJ, so far of a game where you feel like you absolutely nailed it and it really captured for you what this is all about?
I would say that game is a charity game at Dulwich Stadium. That game is memorable because it was my first time ever refereeing in a stadium, and refereeing ex-players, you know, celebrities, like refereeing them was nice because they just came to play football. And I would say the buzz was the fact that everyone was just joking. They were just like nutmegging each other. It was such a chilled game. And I was like, this is what football is about. Like, you're raising money. You're also like playing with people that you know. And just that feeling was really good.
Oh, it sounds fun. I want to go.
Yeah.
I want to play football instead of sitting in my house. Sian, is your best memory the one that you told us about from the first Premier League game, or do you have another one that comes to mind?
The thing is, I've got so many fantastic memories. I mean, that's the best thing about being a referee, that I've got, you know, like stadiums that you love and you think, oh, I'd love to go to that stadium. I'd love to do this. You know, my first men's international match was such a memory for me, but also, you know, going to the World Cup and the Women's Champions League final. I've got so many different memories that you kind of just think, you know, how fantastic. And it's like you say, you don't you don't really remember the game. You remember like moments like that, stood at the start, the walking out, hearing the national anthems, them kind of moments that, yeah, really memorable.
It sounds absolutely amazing. You haven't been tempted to get like Mark Clattenburg a tattoo of any of those big trophies? No. All right. We're going to get to some Q&A. Some of the people listening have sent some questions in. Sian, can I give you a moment to turn a light on? I feel like you're going to go into darkness if you.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit dark in here, aren't I?
Yeah, I don't want you to fade from view. So I'm going to look at the. I'm going to have a little look at some of the questions that have been sent in. Some great stuff. Thank you everybody who's on the session for sending in these questions. Let's start with Jay. I mean, this is something we've talked about a bit already, JJ. But Joe Stimson has asked, how have your experiences within women's football developed you as a person away from the game?
I would say development in terms of growing as a person. I would say I'm more responsible, because like before, when I was refereeing, at the early stage of my refereeing career, it was like I just want to like just do it for fun. But like now, I know I'm responsible. Every decision that I make it's gonna have, it's gonna change someone's feelings, whether it's a good one, someone can be, happy. So if it's a bad decision, someone can just be very upset. So like taking control of that and, being more organized, like preparing my kit the day before, doing all the admin stuff. So like it has changed me a lot as a person, I would say, like in terms of resilience, a lot. Like I didn't know I had this much patience, honestly, with all this stuff in my ears. I'm just telling them like, relax. I have to be the bigger person and tell them, relax. You're older than me and I'm telling you to relax. What's wrong with you?
It sounds really impressive, and definitely that diligence is such a key thing. Sian, quick one from Tom. Well, not quick, I don't know, we'll see. He says, can you offer an opinion as to why more female referees do not make steps to the Championship and the Premier League?
Sorry, can you just say that last bit again, Kate? My internet's cutting out.
Oh, sorry, yes. Tom has asked, can you give us a thought about why more female referees don't make steps to the Championship or the Premier League?
I think I got most of that. Can you hear me fully? Because
I can hear you. Fine.
I think for the females coming through, it's just difficult in terms of not necessarily for females to come through, but for males as well. I think that the problem is that there's so many thousand referees that you kind of at that pinnacle, to be the best Olympic gymnast, you've still got to compete with all those other gymnasts. And I think refereeing is exactly the same. To come through, you've got to be really good, because every league that you get promoted off, you have to be in the top 1% of that league. So, to get through league by league, it's just difficult. So I think it's just when you have a smaller pool of females to start with, the amount that actually make it through the ranks is quite difficult. I think we lose quite a few to fitness. And I think that can be a little bit of a barrier as well. So that, all of them kind of topics added together make it quite difficult and make the numbers smaller.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like it's a case that people are not aspiring to do this. JJ, Leon has sent this question in for you. He says, Black and Asian women are rarely spoken about so much in football. This is changing slowly. Lots of groups like Goals for Girls, Nutmeg, Sport Shifts, the Jason Roberts Foundation, and Football Beyond Borders amongst them. Would you like to see specific campaigns targeting Black and Asian women to get into refereeing in partnership with those groups? And if so, what do you think is most important for this to work?
For this to work, I would say girls in general, like refereeing, there's not enough females in refereeing. And as Sian was explaining how difficult it is to get through the rank, I think there should be a system where we can keep the ones that are passionate and, love the game and still involved in the game. And in terms of getting girls from ethnic minorities involved in refereeing and football in general. I think the work has to be done like by getting role models, people that look like them involved in, like, telling them that, you know, you have this girl that's involved in the game, and just putting out campaigns that encourages them, catering to their needs. Like, some girls don't like to be involved with they don't like to be seen by boys when they're playing football. They just like to have their own safe space, like only female, like they like to have those kind of private spaces. And in terms of getting them to be fully professional, I would say just support them and be there for them, you know, and help them out through the ranks.
Okay. That sounds like a very sensible and logical way to do it, JJ. Sian, another question for you. And this is actually one I'm really interested in. It's about the pathways of being an assistant referee or a referee, because I feel as though there's some misinformation about, you know, like you stop at some point in your progress, but it's a decision you make, isn't it? Myri says, can I say that Sian is definitely one of the best assistant refs in the Premier League? Flattery gets you onto the questions list. Well done, Myri. Does she have any aspirations to be a referee in the Premier League?
Yeah, so it is different pathways. So I've chosen to be an assistant referee now. So when you first take the course, you're a referee and an assistant referee. So you normally referee on one level and you assistant referee one level higher. And then you get to a certain level, kind of in semi-professional football, where you can then choose separate pathways. So you can go higher as a referee and an assistant referee for a while, and then you have to make a decision. So when we became full-time about 5 years ago, I made the decision to stop being a referee and to just be an assistant referee. It was a really, really tough decision for me personally, because I still love refereeing and I love lining, and for me they're completely different skills actually, in terms of, you know, my offside judgment is very black and white. It's either offside or not offside, the ball's either out or it's not out, that kind of thing. Whereas refereeing, I think, is a lot more subjective, and it's a lot more about game management. And don't get me wrong, I loved refereeing as well. I loved having a laugh with the lads and, you know, kind of being the leader of the team. I love that aspect of it. But for me, as an assistant referee, I like a lot more that it's black and white. It's more factual about decisions. You're either right or wrong. And I think for me, it was about making that decision. It's not an easy decision to make. And you can continue to be a referee and an assistant referee for like quite a number of years. And then sometimes you can choose to come off as an assistant referee and to go back on as a referee. But I'm quite happy with my assistant referee choice.
So you've never regretted that one, Sian? This is you're all set as an assistant referee?
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Thanks for clearing that one up, because, yeah, people seem to treat it as though it would be a step up. But I think you're an elite assistant referee and that is your role. JJ, what have we got for you now? Okay, this is something we touched on already a fair bit. This is from Robert. He says, respect is a massive problem for officials at all levels of the game. What needs to happen to sort it out once and for all? I think he wants us to get a magic wand, JJ, but in the absence of a magic wand, what do you think?
I would say this is a very practical and also easy thing to do. So, like, you have parents volunteering to be referees sometimes. Okay, that's good. But I would say getting kids from the age of, I would say 15, 16, 17, they're in academy, but also offering them like a refereeing class, like a session, refereeing session, where during that day, the whole day, they're learning about refereeing. Even in the elite games, like elite matches, elite games, players that are giving referees a tough time, they can be educated. They can learn exactly what there's 17 rules. Like, they can learn each of them and understand them. Maybe we can all be on the same page, because imagine they have no idea what refereeing is. They just see a physical person, but they don't know what was happening with their referee's mind, what process goes through their mind, and they need to be educated so that, you know, they give us a less hard time.
Yeah, Graham Souness, or one of the guys in the Sky studio the other night, was suggesting that that players should go into refereeing. Do you see that happening, JJ?
Yeah, they should. Honestly, like, even like okay, you can still carry on playing football, but you should take some time out to learn about refereeing, because like imagine it's just one referee making all this decision. I remember a friend telling me one time they were just having a go at referee and they watched the scenario, and then the room was split into two halves. Like one person was like, oh, this is definitely a red card. The other half was saying, oh, that's definitely a yellow card. So like imagine referees have split seconds. The video was repeating how many times and they were still like in doubt. So referees have few seconds to make that decision. So yeah, I would say leave referees alone.
Yeah, absolutely right. And sometimes they spend all that time drawing the lines, don't they? And Sian's already called it. Only took her a second, so it's fine. Sian, I think Tom's asking, what has been the hardest level to referee at? Does it get easier when you get out of the lower grassroots leagues?
Yeah, I think they come with different challenges. I think at grassroots football, it's more about, you know, the parents on the sideline giving you jip as such. You know, it's the you're trying to teach as well as referee as such, which I love that part of it. But I think that's a challenge at grassroots football. And in terms of, especially in grassroots football, you've got a lot of youth referees refereeing youth football. So I think that we have to remember that actually they're learning exactly like the footballers are learning to play. They're learning to referee. They're going to make mistakes. And I think, so that's the challenge. The challenge at grassroots is it's about making mistakes and learning from them as well. And I think whereas the challenges at higher up are that any mistakes are really high profile. So, you know, everybody can see it in the world that you've made a mistake. And it's about the kind of psychological, the mental strength to know that you've made a mistake and carry on for the rest of the game. So I think the challenges are probably equally as tough, but just completely different, really.
What do you say to yourself when you realise you've made a mistake, Sian? What do you put in your brain? Actually, that's a question for JJ as well. But Sian, what do you just sort of focus on the next thing, or what do you do?
Yeah, again, like, so we work with psychologists quite a lot as well about parking it. So, you know, like put it on the shelf, pick it up later. I've got to deal with it later. You know, that kind of, I've got another 60 minutes of a match to get through where I've got to get the next decision right. So in terms of that, sometimes I think earlier on in my career, I suppose, as well, when I knew I'd got something wrong, then for the next 10 minutes, I'll probably make another mistake just because it's that, you know, knowing that you've got something wrong and having to go again. And if you focus too much on what you've got wrong, you will get the next one wrong again. So I think it's more important that you kind of focus on the next bit. Again, that teamwork ethos, you know, like we're out on the pitch as a team, you know, your mate might say over the comms, like, come on, Sian, pick it up later. And that's, you know, sometimes you just have that little bit of, you know, strength from your friends to say, come on, next one. And, you know, that's what you have to think, really.
Is that the same sort of thing for you, JJ? What have you got, a little mantra or anything that you come up with when you realise you've made a mistake?
So when I make mistake, the first thing I say to myself is, imagine how bad it would be getting told off for two things in one go. So as soon as that ball was out of play, players will come to you because you made two mistakes. I'd rather make one mistake than make two mistakes. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to keep going. It's so hard to block it because you're like, oh no, I just missed that. I'm so sorry. And then there's no time to explain. The players are like, can you please explain why you did that? I'm like, excuse me, how many are you? It's just me. And then you want me to stand here and explain what just happened. The game has to go on. I'm very sorry, but maybe catch me at halftime or the end of the game. But we must move.
I would definitely listen to you. I can see how you have the authority for it. Next question from Olivia for both of you guys. How have you got past any sexism you've received in refereeing to not let it affect how you are in the match and then any other future matches? Do you want to come in first, Sian?
Yeah, I think for me, it's about that mental strength. I think that I just don't really let it affect me. I'm quite a laid back person. I just think, you know, you can have your opinion and you can sit on it because I don't really care about your opinion. I care about my opinion of myself. I care about if I'm doing a good job or not. And that for me is more important. If I've made a mistake, don't get me wrong, you know, I'll definitely be looking through it and seeing why I've got it wrong. But to bring gender into it is not really an issue for me. I just say, you know, have your opinion and that's it.
Yeah, it's not really an opinion, is it? It's just not relevant. What do you think, JJ? Is that a similar idea for you?
Yeah, very similar. I would say making them feel like what they've said, I make them regret what they said, because it's big 2021 and you're behaving like this. Why can we not move past, oh, you're a girl, you're doing this, you're doing that? Like, it's supposed to be a stage where you criticize someone for what they've done and not because of their gender. It has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with race or anything. Like, judge me for what I've done. That I always make them feel like, hello, don't look at this, like, hello, judge me on what I've done.
We've only sadly got a couple of minutes left, so I think the last one is going to be, just to wrap up the whole point of this session, is that the reason we're all here is because refereeing does lack diversity. There aren't very many women, Muslim women, Muslim people generally, involved in refereeing, and we're hoping to help build that up more. What we could have the next Sian or JJ on this session right now. So what would you say, Sian, first to them about refereeing?
Oh, I think I've lost you.
In the internet, I apologise.
Yeah.
You're back in. I didn't think it was that rogue of a question. Don't worry, it wasn't you. Yes, I was just saying, why do you think people should just carry on and be involved in refereeing, Sian?
I think because actually the positives by far outweigh the negatives. So I think, actually it's a pretty cool thing to do, and it's really fun and really enjoyable. And I think just people should give it a go and try it, and then they'll be hooked like I am.
How about you, JJ? What do you think?
I would say until you try it, don't criticize it. Like, refereeing has been the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm not going back from it. I'm going to continue and hopefully inspire more and more girls.
Oh, you absolutely will. I've just really loved having this chat, Sian, JJ. Thank you for taking the time to talk to everyone on here. So many people so interested to hear what you have to say about this, and the reason is because you've made such strides in this profession, and just please carry on doing that and keep talking to everyone, and we're going to have far more people like you involved in the game, and what a great thing that will be. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So sadly, this is all over, but there is another one coming up. There's a new Breaking Barriers next month. We have an excellent session planned. It's going to be on Asian representation in refereeing. We're delighted to say that John Singh, the pioneering referee who officiated in EFL for many years, is going to be joined by his two sons, Sunny and Butz, who are following in his footsteps. They're both making their mark in the profession too. The details, I believe, yes, here they are on the screen right now. Do please sign up for that, and also spread the word if you've enjoyed today. It's been such a wonderful session. I hope you've enjoyed it. There'll be plenty of clips up about the session and about these two brilliant referees that we have with us. And also, you can follow the PGMOL on PGMOL on Twitter and on Instagram. Just search for @FA_PGMOL. I think JJ, you're on Twitter as well. Do you want to give out your handle? You don't have to.
JJ_Roble.
All right. And Sian, very grown-uply, is not. Thank you again, guys, for your time. Thank you, everyone on this call, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Catch you then.